So if folks jump in late, they'll just have missed my opening remarks, which is probably not all that great. Anyways, so good morning and welcome to day 3 of the Big Table. My name is Chris Setti, and I am the CEO of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. We're a part of the team that has put this together, but this is really all about you and the people who have joined us here today. And so I'm excited that you've all chose to join us. I hope you were able to join us on Monday and Tuesday to have equally important conversations, and that you also can join us tomorrow for our last conversation on quality of life, quality of place. This is exciting to me because the topic of innovation and entrepreneurship and small business development, is really at the heart of what economic development really is. So I've built a bit of a career around economic development, but nothing excites me as much as seeing small businesses be born and grow into hopefully into large businesses, but to be the exact size business that their founder had in their mind. And so as a region, I know that innovation is the future of our economy here. And last year when we had this conversation, and when we all, if you could remember, we all got to be in one big room together. Remember how great that was? We took the opportunity during the Innovation and Entrepreneurship to highlight 3 really amazing businesses that had gotten past just the founder stage and into a pretty robust stage. So we got to hear from Autonomous Stuff, which had been acquired and is now part of a multi-billion-dollar company. Tada, which has grown as an organization here, and Natural Fiber Welding. And if some of you remember, just a couple of months ago, Natural Fiber Welding had a really great announcement where they announced a $13 million round of funding, including a lot of money from a little company called Ralph Lauren. And so it's been a really great journey for those companies. But innovation and entrepreneurship isn't just about big companies, it's even about little companies. And I'm excited about some of the progress we've made over the last year, especially around the Distillery Labs concept. And if you remember, even last year, we wouldn't have even had that name. We were calling it the Peoria Innovation Hub because we needed a boring title to start with so that we could come up with a cooler title later. And one of the things that in the last year is to rebrand that to Distillery Labs. And it has a very particular meaning behind it. It really is it harkens to our past as the whiskey capital of the world, but it's also a nod towards the process of entrepreneurship and innovation. It really is about distilling ideas and resources into products. So we very purposefully chose the name of Distillery Labs. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's going to be a combination makerspace, co-working space, and real innovation center that's going to be located in downtown Peoria in the ICC, the former Thomas building for ICC. We've had a lot of progress in the last year. We've not only the rebranding, but we've hired an architecture firm, a partnership of a company called Gensler in Chicago, and our own Farnsworth group here in Peoria to really help us develop that building. We've started having some community meetings and some outreach. Hopefully some of you were part of that. And there will be continued opportunities to get involved in Distillery Labs. We've launched an executive director search, which we hope will be finalized very soon. And we're hoping that this building will be open by the end of 2021. It's very exciting. It's an exciting opportunity for this community. And I'm going to turn it over to talk to my friend Jake Hamann, who's going to talk a little bit about what are the things that are happening right now when it comes, to entrepreneurship and innovation. So Jake, take it away.
All right, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So as we were hit with COVID here in the region in March, a lot of the entrepreneurial activity that was going on was happening in person prior to that. There were a lot of meetups happening, a lot of get-togethers, programs, those types of things. But once the pandemic hit, obviously that all changed, and as a result, we're here today virtually. However, at that time, we were looking at what can we do as a entrepreneurial community and our ecosystem, as we call it, to continue the activity that has been going on, and actually use this as an opportunity to really help support the growth of new businesses and entrepreneurs at the smaller sizes, as Chris mentioned. So A collaborative group of organizations, many are represented here today, Distillery Labs, the EDC, the Chamber. We all put our heads together and had a working group that we called, affectionately called our LTCRESI, so alphabet soup, but essentially that stands for Long-Term Community Recovery, focused on entrepreneurship, startups, and innovation. So our outcome is essentially this campaign, a collective, collaborative campaign called Return to Better. And as I mentioned, what we're trying to do is really change the landscape of the region through this unwavering support of entrepreneurs, startups, and innovators. So it's really a set of tangible tools and resources that are really aimed at helping entrepreneurs where they are in their point of need. As I mentioned, right, it's many different regional partners. We also have relationships on a national and state level. A couple organizations called the Kaufman Foundation, if you've ever heard of them. They have a program called Start Us Up, America's New Business Plan, that we're actually kind of modeling with what we're doing. And you can see there are a lot of the regional partners that have been involved in this effort up to this point. Real quickly, this effort, I encourage you to get involved if you are an entrepreneur, even if you aren't as a service provider. We're looking at also measuring this, and this actually harkens back to the discussions that were had on Monday around inclusivity and diversity. So we're trying to measure activity a little bit differently, not just new business starts, but how is our ecosystem becoming more equitable and more fair for everybody within the community. So it's really made of 4 strategic pillars real quickly. So education and programming, trying to help people understand the basics, the 101s of getting started with your business. Service provider, so if you that are in the audience are maybe a lawyer, a graphic designer, a marketer, and you want to get back and help the entrepreneurial community, this is a way for you to do that. An innovation fund, so actually setting up an early stage innovation fund to help these businesses at the early stages. 50% of that is going to be dedicated to minority women-owned businesses. And finally, the policy and advocacy side. So what can our local government leaders, our business leaders do to help make it easier for new businesses to get started and get created? So there's plenty more information on that you can get at the website at returntobetter.com. One of those service providers is, as Chris mentioned, is the Small Business Development Center at Bradley. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric Sampson, who's the director there, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the programs that they offer at the SBDC. So with that, Eric, we'll turn it over to you.
Hey, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jake. Yes, as Jake alluded to, I am the recently installed director of the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Bradley University. We are actually one of 42 small business development centers in the state of Illinois. And our mission, of course, is to support the startup and ongoing growth of small businesses in our community to help them contribute economically to our region. We actually have a 35-year history of supplying support and providing support to small businesses in the area. Because we are funded through the Small Business Administration of the federal government and the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity at the state level, we're able to provide our services at no cost to our clients. The services that we provide are confidential and collaborative, and we find that they're most effectively delivered via one-on-one sessions. Now, granted, in this time of the pandemic situation and due to health and safety concerns, we're hosting a lot of those one-on-one sessions via the phone or via web conferencing platforms such as we're on today. But one of the things that we're always very happy to do is to help small companies take the kernel of an idea that they have, develop a business plan around that, and put that into practice. One of the ways that we encourage that is through one of the highlights of our monthly calendar, and that is 2 times a month, we offer a workshop called Starting Your Business in Illinois. You can find that at our website if you just Google search for Illinois Small Business Development Center at Bradley University, and you can find when those are available. Those are a terrific place to get the nuts and bolts of how to form a company and how to interact with some of the state and government regulations as you get your company off the ground. Some of the other things that are tremendously wonderful opportunities that we provide also as services to our community is that within the Turner Center for Entrepreneurship at Bradley University, we also have guidance in regard to state and government contracting through our procurement and technical assistance center. And also, as your company grows and you look to expand into foreign markets, we have experts in international trade through our International Trade Center as well. With that in mind, I want to highlight one of our local entrepreneurs and turn it over to Sam Hutchison, who is the founder of Bears Bites. Tell us more about your entrepreneurial journey here, Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I am the founder and owner and pretty much everything else of Bears Bites. So I started our business 2.5 years ago. Our dogs, I've been making dog treats for about 12 years now because our dogs had really bad food allergies. We were at the vets all the time trying to figure everything out. Finally got Sarge on a dog food that was not causing him problems. We adopted Tank. He had horrible problems, got him on the right food, and then realized that they don't get any dog treats. Because when you look at the back of a package, it's stuff you can't pronounce or you wouldn't want to eat, and everything has chicken in it, which is the #1 food allergy. So I started dehydrating just sweet potato and banana at that time, and they loved it. So when we adopted Bear decided he wouldn't eat sweet potato and banana, but he had the same food allergies, the same chicken, ear infections, awful stuff. So we actually found Little Blue's Farm at that time and started making meat treats. And I said to Mike, my spouse, I was like, hey, I'm gonna start a business. And that was November 2017. And I told him I was gonna start a dog treat business. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked me if I had done any research. And I'm like, nope, we're launching January 1st. So January 1st came, it didn't happen because I actually had to learn how to start a business and got everything going. We launched February 8th. In the short time that we have been in business, we have grown tremendously. Back in, let's see, December of this past year, we got picked up by Camping World and went national. We're in 71 stores nationwide. We moved out of my house because all of our treats were made out of our house. So we moved out of our house into an amazing shop, which I'm actually in our manufacturing facility right now. So let's see. I have been very lucky to meet with all of the gentlemen right before me. They are amazing, and I think that's why we are where we are, because you can't do it all your own. During COVID, I have learned that. When COVID hit, I was terrified because I'm a small business. You know, we didn't know exactly what to do. So I reached out, and you learn you can't do it all yourself. And here I am in the manufacturing facility. I've now taken on people to help me grow. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, thanks.
Give that back to Chris.
All right, I didn't know if you were finished or. You did great, Sam. So what I love about Sam's story is that it's the essence of entrepreneurship. She recognized a problem that wasn't being solved. Her dogs, had a food allergy, and she came up with a household remedy. And it became so popular with her own dogs that I'm sure her friends' dogs, that she thought that she had an opportunity to take this to be bigger than just out of her, out of her small circle, and is now doing really well with the support of lots of the folks that are on this screen. But I think it's just an important story about, you don't have to invent a new way of vegan leather, as the folks at Natural Fiber Welding have done. That's great too. But you don't have to be a biochemical PhD in order to start a new business. There's lots of opportunity, and that's really where the future of this economy, the future of our region is going to go. So I really want to thank Sam and Jake and Eric and everybody else for their participation, and I hope Sam's story, Jake and Eric and I, we're boring. Sam's story is actually the real powerful one, because hopefully it inspires you to think about, maybe if you can't start your own business, how do you support businesses like Bear Bites? So thank you all for this part. We're now going to move you into our breakout sessions. You're going to be randomly assigned to a breakout session. You will have a facilitator, maybe two, in that breakout room. They got a series of questions. Audrey, I think we're going to try to go for about 35 minutes. in those breakout sessions, and then you'll all be back here in the main room for some report out. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you in about 35 minutes. Audrey, push the button. All right, are we all back in, Audrey? All right. Well, thank you all. I assume you had some really good conversations in your breakout groups. So the way that we work this from this point forward is to do some report outs. So what I'm going to ask is for each of the facilitators, when you're ready, to drop your name and group number in the chat. And then I'm going to ask you to, for no longer than 90 seconds, try to keep yourself to that, to tell me or tell us kind of the one good, thing that really kind of resonated with your group. The person that goes first can almost say anything. The person that goes 14th, try not to say what the other 13 people said. We're going to be collecting all of your notes. And making it available. We also have some great note takers who are going to be putting some stuff up on the board. I think we need to share somebody's screen so that people can see that as we do this. So I'm going to start, and Paige from Group 14, the floor is yours.
Hi, so I think probably the biggest thing that I liked the most that came out of our group, and it came at the very, very end. We were talking about headlines for Peoria, and over any particular industry, there to be opportunity for everyone in Peoria.
That's great, and it ties in really well to what we talked about on Monday with diversity and inclusion, right? That entrepreneurship isn't just for a certain part of Peoria or a certain part of even the city, but the entire region and everybody in there. So that's an excellent point. All right, Zach Edmonds from Group 11.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we had a great discussion. One of the main things that kind of flowed through all the questions we had was communication between the bigger businesses in the area, the big corporations, what have you, and then helping foster some of these new ideas. And then another thing we discussed was if innovation doesn't necessarily have to be a product or a new thing that we talked about, but it could be a service. So if you're helping some of these people out, you're fostering that entrepreneurial spirit within them. And then we also talked about the headline. Again, that was the fun question at the end. I think that's why it was at the end, to make sure that we didn't just stop after that and do the mic drop. But we talked about the phrase that we all know and love is it plays in Peoria. But we also discussed adding that it's made and it stays in Peoria as well, to add to that. So thank you.
Awesome. That's I love that headline. Also, Zach gets bonus points for downloading a big table screen image for his background on Zoom. The rest of us are all just living in his shadow. So that's excellent branding on your part, Zach. All right. Let's see. Jim Hollenbach, Group 7.
Thanks, Chris. Good discussion. We talked about, as you talk about innovation and economic development, generally, it's a competitive world out there. So we looked at areas where the Peoria region might have competitive advantage. Obviously, agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare are three that are key focus areas for us. But our group really dug into the weeds on the arts community and the competitive advantage that we have in terms of our local artists and how that can relate to business and economic development. So had good conversation about that, even relating to the Distillery Labs and what kind of facility they're going to have to help, artists generate, business income and wages from that. So excellent discussion, and appreciate the opportunity.
Great, thanks, Jim. Yeah, absolutely right. There's a great intersection between art and innovation for sure. Let's see, Leanne Brown, you're in group 13, lucky number 13.
That's right, lucky number 13. Good discussion from our group, and highlight is challenge. How do we find and connect with entrepreneurs who's, especially this year, been at home and has maybe multiple side hustles now? And one solution to that is, can we leverage our farmers markets to welcome them to the table, to the streets, to expose their business to the community? And I'll leave it at that.
That's great. We actually had a Southside farmers market, and one of the outcomes that that happened there was that some home-based businesses had a very low barrier of entry. I think it cost $10 to set up a table. And you don't have to have a whole storefront or anything like that. So that's an excellent, excellent point. All right, Andy Diaz, Group 2, you're next. Are you there, Andy? Are you unmuted, Andy?
Yes, can you hear me?
Nope. Now, we can hear you now.
All right, sorry. So that's the key phrase of the year is, are you on mute? No, so we had a great group. We talked about entrepreneurship and innovation in Peoria is optimistic, that we have seen pivots in town with everything from Black Band Distillery making hand sanitizer to a coffee shop making mixed drinks. And that with entrepreneurship, we can find a place for even those with disabilities, because that's a place where they can start their own business, or their families can start their business to give employment to folks that don't look and aren't necessarily like your standard workers. So a lot of great conversation though from our group.
That's great. That's a segment of our community that we certainly need to make sure is included in our, when we have a discussion about innovation. Well, Zach, you're in here twice, and I know I gave you some props for your big table background, but you don't get 2 bites at the apple quite yet. So I'm going to go to Clint Heinold in Group 4.
Okay, 3 main points to discuss from Group 4. One thing that came up and was noted is how the innovation and entrepreneurship ties to some of the other big table topics, and specifically the link between small businesses and workforce development, and then the opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship to address some of the diversity and inclusion things that have been discussed in previous sessions. So I thought that was an important tie to make. It was previously mentioned, but just bears mentioning again, the importance of networking within the innovation and entrepreneurship community. There are a lot of resources available within our region, and it's important for small businesses to know what those resources are. And a lot of times that comes through the networking between other small business owners. So we felt that was an important connection to make. And finally, I thought it was a very interesting point that was brought up. When we look at the value of innovation within the community, it was stated that the innovation and entrepreneurship not only makes the community strong, but also makes it interesting. And I thought that was a very important point, that the innovation provides a level of excitement, and we're always interested in seeing what's new, and this is really where those things come from.
Great point. And don't underestimate how that impacts the quality of life and quality of place, which is tomorrow's big table conversation. So Ashlyn and Michelle, you're Group 12. One of you or both of you can let us know what you thought.
Great. Ashlyn and I had a great group, really passionate. Some of the highlights were storytelling. It motivates and pulls us all in. And so we really want to continue to promote those impactful stories that come out of Distillery Labs, like Sam shared with us. We also talked about Kyle gave us an example of, why not Peoria? A lot of people ask why Peoria, but our really response back should be why not Peoria? There was a need to connect partnerships. An example was given like medical and manufacturing, and make those collaborative connections that can help advance Peoria. And for future visions, we want to get off all of the worst lists. A lot of them are in Illinois in general, but there's a lot of things that communities or cities and our surrounding areas, they're on the worst lists, some of them in the Black community. And this really prevents bringing entrepreneurship to the area because all of these lists float around, and I'm sure we've seen them all too many times. So we're going to be on the best list.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see here. Dean Hefta, Group 5.
Hey, Chris, longtime listener, first-time caller. We had a tremendous conversation in our group, I would say probably the most amazing group out there, just humbly saying that. A couple of things that really came up for us in our conversation was not forgetting to highlight the message of success that comes out of these micro and small success stories. So creating this vibe, this feel of, hey, here's a success that we've had right here in our community. One of the highlights that came up was Spot Coffee. Right? So, dozens and dozens and dozens of these micro businesses that are employing people and contributing to our community, getting that word out, and it shows people what's possible when you step out and there's a path and there's support here for that. The other thing that came up was also making sure that we're coordinating with the places that we have to support entrepreneurship. So we talked about Next and Jump and Distillery and Black Business Alliance and all of these different areas in our community, making sure that there is some communication, coordination, and clear understanding of what their purpose is, who they serve, and how the pieces fit together so that we're not all trying to do the same thing and then, missing some opportunities to really help our entrepreneurial environment.
Absolutely. And there's also some trash talking going on at the bottom of the chat now, Dean. So you've been challenged by Jim Hollenbach in Group 7. So knife fight later on if that's what it, fisticuffs at noon. Let's see. Ruben and Jake, Group 27.
All right, just unmuting there. Okay. So 2 points that really stuck out for me in our group. The first is that, and this was kind of reoccurring between a couple of speakers, is the fact of getting recognition. So you have these small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and it's difficult for them to really stand out when you have a lot of larger organizations who kind of get all the attention. And then closely related to that was the importance of buying locally. So there's usually a misconception that buying locally and buying from Peoria means that you are going to pay more or you might not get as good of a quality. But one story that really struck out to me is one of the speakers said that she was at the store buying a cake, and it occurred to her that there's a local minority-owned business that makes cakes for the same price and tastes better. So in light of that, we should always think about buying locally, and the idea was to have some sort of directory or some way so that we could find out about these local alternatives to things that we might go to Amazon for or that we might go to the grocery store for.
Absolutely. All of us can be part of the entrepreneurial economy by just, I'm never going to start my own business, but I can support those businesses. So I'm going on getting some bear bites tomorrow. Let's see. Okay, Ken Allison, Group 9, you're next. If you're trying to talk, Ken, you're muted.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's all right.
So, Chris, thanks a lot. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to host this or be a facilitator. But regardless of what everyone else has said, Group 9, I firmly believe that it was the best group. I don't want to offend anybody by saying it. It's just the facts. So, but what the biggest thing that we came away with, truthfully, when we talked about innovation and what it is to be an entrepreneur and how we're able to grow this community, we really touched on. We dove really kind of deep into inclusion. And that's not necessarily in the doctrinal sense that we normally think of, but really being including not only with our impoverished communities or disadvantaged communities, but also looking for opportunities to be able to help our youthful entrepreneurs, where we have young people that are wanting to start new business opportunities because, you know, they have these ideas and, you know, they maybe not have the back end of the house, so to speak, to be able to kind of drive, you know, their young dreams home. And so we felt that, in fact, my good friend Paris, my new friend Paris, just happened to mention, she's like, you know, we need to be intentional. We have to take intentional steps to include everyone, because great ideas come from all walks of life, and we have to make a purposeful effort to really bring them into the fold and be able to help them and make sure people know that there are great resources available and really collaborate. So.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Ken. All right, Jamila and Amy of an unnumbered group.
Well, as a matter of fact, we're group number 1.
Oh, no, there you. I see there. Yep, I just hadn't gotten that far down the chat. Group 1.
And perfectly named, I might add, group number 1. So our group was made up of several folks from collegiate institutions, and so some discussion wrapped around those institutions really facilitating and taking a look at, as college students are making their plans toward graduation and post-graduation, what does that look like for them? And that looks very different today than perhaps it did when I was in college or you were in college, Chris. Knowing where the gaps are in the workforce and knowing how those college students can fill those gaps is important. We also focused on, as we're bringing those college students to town, we have, you know, Bradley students coming into town or medical students coming into town. We want to keep them here. We want to keep those employed students in our community, and that leads to quality of life. And certainly we can discuss that more tomorrow. But we want to, you know, keep those educated folks here and to be a part of our community.
Great, thanks, Amy and Jamila. So Christelle Frausto, group 3.
Hi, everyone. My group had people that experienced helping individuals that wanted to start a business for the first time. And what everyone is asking for is a roadmap of support. Where can they go to get business plans, financial literacy, access to capital, mentors, coaches, and accounting? And they would like to see a place like Distillery Labs maybe be the point of contact for that roadmap. And our plan is to turn Peoria into an inclusive business community in the future, but that also takes the next step and continues to partner with the schools in Peoria to educate the younger children on their options for future careers, whether it's a business owner or just taking the formal traditional path, that we continue to give back in that sense. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Christelle. And I think last but not least, and I'm sure he'll also claim best, Philip Lockwood, group 10.
That's because we are a 10. It is a 10, scored a 10. We had a unique mix of leaders from nonprofit, financial institutions, municipal, and some community resource organizations. So we had a wholesome discussion about the whole concept of ecosystem. And it really comes down to ecosystem is about people. And it's about one is the awareness of the resource, making everyone aware of the resources, both cross-directional. So those who are providing resources, those who are seeking resources, and then working to create the conversations, the connections, the collisions, and the relationship building, which is at the heart of collaboration. And then investing in the people further than investing in that ecosystem, so that we really become an aspirational region for retaining, growing, and now recruiting talent from afar.
Excellent, great. Thanks a lot, Philip. I think we got to everybody. If there's a group that did not put down their, did we miss, I mean, because they don't go in order and I can't see above, did we get all did we have 14 groups, I think?
There's a Kelly, group 8.
Oh, that's right. I did see that down there. Kelly, go ahead.
She's playing on an 8 out of 10 today, I guess. I really wanted to kind of just talk a little bit more. I know we actually covered a lot of similar things, obviously, as the rest of the groups, but one of the things that I thought really came out of this was, why is innovation and entrepreneurship so important to everyone within the community? And, I heard someone else say, that is what brings and keeps younger people here after they graduate. But we also need to remember that small businesses are a huge, huge part of the national and global economy. It may only seem like a little bit here locally at one time, but, small businesses are what really makes our world run. The other thing that someone brought up was it's essential to have our economic development focus on small businesses as well as just we can't rely on just one large business being within the community. And I think we all remember what happened when Kat left and it seemed like our whole world was going to end. But we have enough small businesses here, and luckily there's some other large drivers here in the community as well. But having a very sustainable place for small businesses to not only survive but thrive is what makes us sustainable long-term as a community.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, first of all, thanks to all of the groups. I'm sure you all had really great conversations. You're all winners as far as I'm concerned. In the chat, just a couple of things, if you haven't opened the chat window, in addition to a little bit of trash talking, there's some actual real good information there. Paige had put a link in, Junior Achievement. Works with and always looking for volunteers for people who want to help teach entrepreneurship to young people at the high school level. We have other great programs like APSCO and things like that. Jake shared the Return to Better website. I shared, because I meant to do this in my 3 minutes, was distillerylabs.org. You could also follow almost any of these groups on social media as well. Peoria Innovation Alliance, Startup GP, other groups like that. And then Jamila had mentioned the Peoria, Discover Peoria, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau, has been highlighting Black-owned businesses in our community. And so there's a list of things there. And then now I'm going to get in trouble as I just keep. If you keep putting them in, I'm like obligated to mention them now. But Peoria JCs has a current effort that helps to support, I think it's also a fundraiser, but also supports local businesses. So Christina had put that in there. So I want to thank everybody for their participation. I'm going to kick it over to Joshua in just a moment, but it's been a really difficult 6 months for all of us. And somebody mentioned, the Caterpillar decision that was made a few years ago really did feel kind of like an emotional kick in the gut to a lot of us. The future of, our economy has always been built on innovation and entrepreneurship. Caterpillar is a very innovative company. The things that are going on in our hospital systems, at University of Illinois College of Medicine, we have an ag lab. We have a lot of entrepreneurialism, even at the corporate level. But even better, we have it at the person level and the individual level. And that's really where we're going to be able to take that next step in creating the ecosystem that Philip talked about and putting all these pieces together. So I'm excited for the next few years of seeing this really kind of take off. So Joshua, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap this all up.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. I typically do the welcome and the close on these, so you all are fortunate to not have had to hear from me twice today. You had a much better moderator and host in Chris, and our session leaders, Jake and Samantha, were fantastic, and I'm missing one. Who did I miss? Well, thank you. You were awesome. You were excellent, and I felt the discussions were really productive. I'm very passionate about what innovation and entrepreneurship can do for communities across the country, and specifically here in Peoria. I think we're primed to make innovation a key driver of our economy. As Chris mentioned, it's always been a driver of Peoria's economy. We sometimes think of big businesses like Caterpillar only as in their form as a giant global conglomerate, but they all started as innovative, really startups at some point in their life cycle. So Peoria is primed and ready to build that as a part of our economy, and I'm excited about helping to support that effort through the Chamber and the CEO Council and all of the partner organizations that are a part of Big Table. One other thing that I wanted to sort of tease is that as a result of the conversations we have here at Big Table this year, we are launching a civic innovation competition during Global Entrepreneurship Week right here in Peoria. So what we're going to do is take some of the problem statements that are generated through these discussions, right? And we're going to host a competition where teams will be able to walk through the process of creating either a company or a product or something to solve some of the key problems in our region. We know that we've got many challenges, and we'll talk about them throughout the week of the Big Table. But the next step is, how do we solve those? And I think that starts with innovation and entrepreneurship. And we have all the tools and resources to improve the quality of life in our region, to grow jobs and create opportunities, and also solve some of the very big problems that we'll talk about. So stay tuned for more information about that. You will all get a participant survey. We'd love for you to give us feedback on your experience with the Big Table. And what we're looking to also capture there is some key themes about the key problems that you all identify as community members that we should focus on in this Civic Innovation Challenge. So stay tuned for that. Global Entrepreneurship Week is November 16th through the 22nd. That's when we'll be hosting that event. So stay tuned. We are excited about your participation. Thanks to all of our table facilitators for volunteering. Thank you all for contributing. We've got one more great day. The momentum seems like it's building every day, right? We've touched on diversity, equity, and inclusion on Monday. We talked about workforce development and education yesterday, innovation and entrepreneurship today. And we'll cap off the week with the conversation about quality of life. Many of you identified that all of these topics really feed into each other. And I think it's perfect to end on how all these things can impact our quality of life and how we can continue to make Peoria a great place to live for us and a great place to attract new people to live in our community. So thank you very much for attending. I think we're ending early today, which speaks to the brilliance of our moderators, because when I moderate, we never end early. So thank you to everyone for staying efficient and being on time. And we hope to see you all tomorrow. BigTableGP.com for any questions. Thanks again.